Good morning, children. We are going to start with a new chapter today from your book Beehive. And now, by looking at the picture, you all must have guessed, I'm sure, that the lesson is based on APJ Abdul Kalam. And yes, this lesson is my childhood. Now, this is in this lesson, actually the extract of this lesson has been taken from Abdul Kalam's autobiography, that is Wings of Fire. Now, in this extract, and rather I would say in his autobiography, autobiography is obviously, a person who writes about himself. So in this particular extract that is mentioned in your lesson, it is about Abdulji's childhood memories. So whatever he has cherished some memories which he jotted down, and that we are going to do in the lesson today. Now, before I go into the lesson, you all know that APJ Abdul Kalam was our president, and not only the president, but then he had a long journey to come up to this designation. And he was, before becoming a president of India, he was a very good scientist, and we are proud, obviously we are proud to have an Indian scientist who took India to the level, and he had projects on defense, he had projects on space and nuclear technology. So he actually, the credit goes to him for taking India to such a great height. And in this extract we are going to learn about his childhood, and from where he was born, and what family background does he come from. So now let's start our lesson without taking much of the time. So it says, I was born into a middle class Tamil family in the island town of Rameshwaram in the erstwhile Madras state. So now he says that he was born to a middle class family. He did not belong to a very rich family. He did not belong to a poor family, but then his family was a middle class family, and Tamil family, and from island town of Rameshwaram. And erstwhile means the former, the previous, or the older name of Madras. My father, Jainulabdin, had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. So he talks about his father, that Jainulabdin was, he was not an educated person, but then he was, at the same time, he was not rich also, but he had some innate means he had some natural, some inborn qualities in him, and those qualities were that of wisdom and generosity. So he was a man of knowledge, and he was a man who was very generous, who was very kind hearted. So his father was a very generous person. And then he talks about his mother. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother, Aisha Amma. So he says that my father had he talks about his mother, Aisha Amma, who was absolute helpmate. Helpmate means she was a big supporter of her husband and supported him at every step. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. So now he talks about his mother, that the mother was, she used to feed lot of people. Feed lot of people means she used to give food to outsiders also. And Abdul says that besides being the family members were not so many as the outsiders. So the outsiders were more in number who used to eat when mother used to cook, and besides the family members. So he says in the second paragraph, it says that I was one of many children, a short boy with rather undistinguished looks, born to a tall and handsome parents. So he talks about his parents very high, and he says that they were very good looking, they were tall, and they were handsome parents. And we lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. So this house was the ancestral house. Ancestral house means the house that belonged to the grandfather, maybe the great grandfather, and all the family members, they lived in this house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. So this particular house was built in the 19th century, and it was fairly large pakka house made of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. So he says that the house was not a thatched house, it was a pakka house. Pakka house means it was built of limestone and brick, and the house was on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. My austere father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. So he says that his father did not believe in luxuries and comforts of life, and he was a very simple man. Simple, but rather he was strict. So his father was a very simple man who did not believe in showing off in luxuries and having all the comforts in life, but he was strict. So however, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine or clothes. So his father believed in giving all the comfort to his children, rather than having rather than leading a luxurious life. So he believed that the children should be well fed, should have shelter, and should be well clothed. So, and then of course the medicines. So the father provided his children with medicines, with clothes, with shelter, and with food. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. So Abdul says that his childhood was a very secured one. If he talks about security, he was secured not only materially but also emotionally. Materially means the food and the clothes and the shelter, that is the material things, and then emotionally that he was given all the love and compassion from his parents. So this is about the initial life of Abdul, the where he was born, his ancestral house, and about his parents.